Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at upenradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Hi there. Welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. We're happy you're with us today, and we hope that you're joining the Women's Empowerment conversation on our Facebook, as well as following us on Twitter and Instagram at My360Karma. And speaking of women's empowerment, we have an amazing guest on today. She's got an extraordinary story. Can't wait to share it with you. She has been the life advice guru on Good Morning America, and I'm sure she's going to have some great advice for us today. We're going to talk about her 2 books and all the cool things happening in her life. Please give a warm welcome today to my guest, Liz Pryor. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
So, Liz, I know we met through Mary Jo Eustace, our common buddy here, who's amazing as well. And I'm so happy that our paths cross. You have an extraordinary story that actually I didn't even know till you shared everything with me today. I mean,
Really?
Wow. Talk about, an adversity to triumph story. You're it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is why you have 2 books about it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I recently, I don't know how long ago, I did a TED Talk on the theme of the TED Talk that I did was unexpected endings. So I think I am an unexpected ending.
Well, I think so many people have some childhood tragedies or adversities that they've had to overcome. Many people have, okay? Yeah. And it is like I was just talking to my last guest about, it's what you do with it. And so let's tell folks, first of all, you got pregnant the first time you had sex, like when you were 16 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I bet there's girls out there listening who, this happened to them. And it was in a time when it just wasn't acceptable, right?
Yes.
Be
back in the 1930s. Yeah, I did. I got pregnant the first time I had sex, and I frankly wasn't even positive I had sex. So 4 months later,
oh my gosh,
I was sailing in the Caribbean with my dad on his big boat, and his new girlfriend said to me, "Is there any way you could be pregnant?" And that was sort of the beginning of the end. So I was 4 months.
You
pregnant.
started to show, and she was like,
"Yeah," and I
Hello?
was sick, and I was such a sailor, but I was all nauseous.
Wow.
So the long story short is that my recently contentiously divorced parents sort of sat down with me. We had no choice but to figure out a way for me to go have this baby and give it up for adoption so I could go on to college. But they really, really didn't want anyone to find out.
Right.
So my book, Look at You Now, is really the story of my mother dropping me off at what I thought was a Catholic home for unwed mothers, but ended up being a locked government-run facility for wayward juvenile pregnant teens.
Now, let's paint the picture here. You came from a well-to-do family.
Yeah, top 2% outside of Chicago.
Right. And so for you to be dropped off at this government facility at 16 years old, you encountered people or other kids that you had never experienced in your life coming from such a sheltered,
privileged
upbringing. Yeah.
It was complete and utter culture shock. But the cool thing I think about the story and the book and the whole experience was, I think I wanted to write it because that 5.5 months with those unfortunate, fabulous girls who I ended up bonding with and being like soldiers in a platoon with, ended up fundamentally changing me and how I saw the world.
Right. So it was actually a blessing.
I think so.
I mean, and how it impacted your life.
Yeah.
I mean, you became incredibly successful, and we're going to talk about that. But, had you been sheltered and not met those people, you definitely would be a different person today.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I really can't help to do. I was married 15 years. I have 3 kids. And there's just no question in my mind. I don't think I would have been the mother that I am to my children had I not been through the previous experience.
Right.
And look, like we both, like I think we're all gunning for, it's really not in life about what happens to you and the challenges. It's about how you choose to get through them.
Absolutely.
Right?
It is perception, perspective,
Exactly.
and choice. I always say with at my 360 Karma community that we create our fate. And what I mean is not that things don't happen to us,
Right.
but we create our fate by what we do with them.
So true.
Yeah.
And like one of the bigger messages, and I did the TED Talk was on self-judgment and sort of outside judgment. One of the things about the beauty and the honor of having raised my 3 children is my parents were of a different generation. And my mother, with all that she was, felt that if anybody ever found out that I had a baby, that my chances and opportunity for success would be ruined. So they lied and told everybody I was sick, and we kept.
That was their perspective and their
at the
perception.
time, right?
Right.
The one thing,
And maybe in a little degree
Could have
at
been
that
true.
time in that culture, it could have been a little true.
yes,
Yeah.
but the notion of being able 38 years later to come clean, and my brothers and sisters finding out the whole real story for the first time, but more importantly, my children. You know, I went to each of my 3 children.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me your brothers and sisters
Nobody knew.
and your children,
And my children.
nobody knew?
Nobody knew.
Wow, that's a huge weight off your shoulders, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, it continues to get the weight up. It's
yeah.
a process.
Yeah.
But the cool part was to be able to know that what I went through now as a mom raising my kids are 18, 20, and 22. The opportunity to sit down and tell them, this is what happened to me.
Right.
I want to own it. I want to tell you that it wasn't murder or terrorism.
Right.
It was, an unfortunate experience that I want to own, I want to tell you about. Because the modeling of telling everybody, whatever you go through, whatever you do, there is a way to forgive yourself.
Right.
Accept
By putting
yourself.
a light on the darkness, they say.
I think so.
Right?
And confession is seemingly contagious, because people who hear my story or read my book, it ends up people just regurgitating.
I would think, as we're having this conversation, it's coming to me that there must be a lot of people out there that have your story, and they haven't shared it with anyone.
That's right. Or versions of my story.
And it's really bold of you to do so,
Thank you.
but also empowering to share it so you embolden other people to do the same.
Exactly. And the truth is, there is nothing more powerful than whatever your secrets are, to figure out a way within yourself to own them. Forgive yourself and move on.
Have you ever reconnected with that child?
I have not.
Okay.
I have feelings about this. I'm asked all the time. I feel like,
And I only asked because I figured the audience would want to know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I figure the choice was mine at 17, ultimately, when I had this baby. And throughout all of these years, I've obviously read a lot and gone. I'm a pretty public figure here.
Yeah.
And what I really think is that this choice is this kid's choice and not mine.
Right.
My choice to give the baby up, the baby's choice to come back in and see if.
So that baby has a choice to reach out to you?
Yes, that baby has my info. That baby's parents have my information. I'm pretty reachable.
Wow.
And there are many, many adopted kids who have
So it could
contacted
still happen?
me. Sure. And
Wow.
said, that they're uninterested in unearthing the sand around everybody's life and that they're perfectly happy.
Right.
It's a 50-50. Girls, apparently, 80% more girls look for their adoptive,
Wow.
birth mothers
And
than
is
boys.
it a girl or boy?
It's a boy.
It's a boy. Okay, so
And I don't even say that in the book, Catherine. So you're pretty honored.
Wow.
No, just kidding.
wow, I am, and so thanks for sharing that with us. So that means the odds are it may be that they don't want to reconnect, and that's
Exactly.
okay.
And I wanna
maybe it
respect
means
that.
they have a happy
Situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So I'm
Yeah.
open if
Yeah.
I'm contacted, but I'm
Wow.
not going to be.
You have to keep us posted
Oh,
on
I
that.
will.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think it's honorable that you give them that space and let it be up to them.
Yeah.
And so you ended up, despite having that really challenging childhood, I mean, you became a model, you made a living at that, and came out here to LA and got married to an actor, and really living a kind of amazing life, and then ended up in a divorce, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then one of the coolest things that happened to you was getting this unbelievable gig doing the life advice for Good Morning America.
Yeah, that was a very interesting. I love the way, married, 3 kids, divorced. We can say that in one sentence. I fought like hell for custody, got custody, hadn't worked in 15 years. I needed a job at this time, but a friend of mine emailed me and said, "Hey, do you watch Good Morning America?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, they're looking for you."
Wow.
That was a while ago. So anyway, I went on, and they'd put out a national search for an advice expert to be on camera and sort of help everyday laymen, mostly women, through the challenges of everyday life. So this process, it was a 4.5-month rigorous, 15,000 applicants.
Wow. And it narrowed it down, and
Narrowed
you
it
got
down.
it.
It was final 10, final 4. And
Wow.
my brother called, and he's like, "Don't even dream about it, baby. It's not going to happen."
Is so amazing. What a great story.
Oh, yeah, it was a good story.
Yeah.
When they called to tell me I got it, my son thought someone died. And he was like, "Mom, you just
you
got
were
so..."
crying?
Yeah, I was crying.
Oh.
And I was like, "No, I've never won it at bingo. Look at this."
Talk about reinventing your life, though.
Yes.
So you hadn't worked in 15 years. What had you done that your friend said, this is the perfect job for you? And what a great friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had written, at the very end of my marriage, I had published by Simon & Schuster a book called What Did I Do Wrong? And it was a book about how women end friendships with each other and how we sort of ghost and vanish and disappear in the emotional aftermath that it leaves. And I interviewed a whole bunch of women, total layman style. And I had sort of fallen out with my dearest friend from childhood. And anyway, it got published and it did pretty well. And that was the birth and the very beginning of my website, LizPryor.com.
That is a brilliant topic.
Oh, God,
I
I know.
hear that all the time.
And I interview
People-
still 3 days a week on this topic. It doesn't go away.
Wow. A lot of people I've heard have said something to this effect of having a childhood friend, there's a falling out,
It's
and
like
then
worse than a divorce.
yeah, wow, that is so crazy. So that's really common that you wrote this book about it. And what did you do wrong? Like what is the
At the end
What
of
is
the
the
day,
solution
there's
there?
2 sides of this female friendship thing. There's the
Yes.
there's the dumper and there's the receiver. And the wildly sort of organically interesting thing is that with men in love relationships, you date someone for 2 months, kiss them, not even sleep with them. There's some sort of protocol of saying, "You know what, I'm not into this," right? Women
Yeah.
can be friends for 10, 12 years. And when a woman is finished, she doesn't really feel the need to end it. And that's where all these people come to me and go, "What do? I just feel so
wow.
crappy on the inside."
Now, are
This is-
you like a coach consultant for people that go
I
through
do.
that?
I do consult massively, mostly through divorce. Well, primarily friendship. Women in friendship is never going to go away. And the thing with me is I've just heard so many stories. And here's the bottom line. When you interview people who decide they don't want to be friends with their girlfriends anymore, and they don't tell them, and they do that thing where you just don't text back, you just
Right.
don't call, you just
Yeah,
don't.
right.
Ultimately, those people will say, "Well, I just didn't want to hurt her feelings and tell her that I can't stand the way she talks to my children, or she flirts with my husband, or she's late all the time." So
rather than
I just
deal
go
with
through-
it.
rather than tell her, and so what I say to the receivers of the behavior is, sometimes it's not a bad idea to write an email or a letter and say, "Wow, we hung out for 7 years. I suddenly feel so disgusting you won't even text me back. Clearly you don't want to be my friend, but clearly you also don't want to mark the ending. So I think I need to do it myself."
Oh, and you have the receiver take ownership.
Exactly.
Wow. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's profound.
But I end up in the consult. Most of the consulting is going through the little bitty pieces and sort of figuring out. But at the end of the day, it's sort of cheerleading for people's souls.
Because women ruminate too much, right?
Yes, we do.
They are ruminators.
Yeah,
you
we're
cannot
ruminators.
stop it. I think it
We're
gets worse
bitchers,
with
too.
menopause, too.
I know.
Not for nothing,
They
ladies.
ruminate and they're hot.
And the wrong kind of hot.
Sweaty. Yeah, so that was the first
So
book.
people go to lizpryor.com, and this is what you do. You consult with people about these
Yeah, well, that's where you could see my TED Talk, buy any of my books.
Yeah.
click
And by the
on
way, I'm so glad that you did a TED Talk, because my friend Tabby Biddle, who trains women in that arena, she was always telling me that only 15 to 20% or less of the TED Talks are women,
women, yeah.
and that more women need to do TED Talks. Yeah.
Well,
So I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We could talk about that for a second, because it
Yeah.
was terrifying.
Was it?
Yes, and I've done live television.
Really?
Oh
After
my
doing Good
God.
Morning America,
Oh
the
my-
TED Talk was
This is-
terrifying.
this
That's
is-
interesting.
this is
No,
12
don't tell people that. We want more women to do TED
Please.
Talks.
No,
She's
honestly,
kidding.
What I meant was it was one of the. I think I felt more proud of myself than I even did of getting the Good Morning America job against 15,000 people, because it meant so much to me. I got to write it. I got to truly talk about judgment and self-judgment and
Right.
freeing ourselves to be able to live a more ease-filled life. But no cue cards, no projector.
Oh no, you have to know that thing inside
Inside out, upside down, and backwards.
Absolutely.
And bless my boyfriend for coming with me to Barcelona and then to Valencia, because all I did was pace doing it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Is that where you did your TED Talk?
yes,
In Barcelona?
Yeah, they called the
Wow.
kids at the graduate school, at the Berkeley Graduate School in Valencia,
And the name of your talk was?
was Alone on the Inside.
Alone on the Inside. Wow.
Yeah, it's doing well, and it was wonderful. But I'm just saying, I'm pretty brave, and it took some bravery.
Right. And that might be why not as many
Not
women
as
have
many.
done. Now, women tend to have a lot less confidence than men. So I think that is why a lot less are doing it. With 360 Karma, I'm trying to provide resources to help women train to be public speakers, because I think we need more women out there public speaking, whether they're running for office or
Agreed.
doing a TED Talk or speaking at an event.
The woman who was just previously here to guest on your show
Yeah.
was very nervous.
Yeah.
And I gave her my 2-cent best Good Morning America advice. I told her, when you get nervous and you're on camera, all she needs to do is look in your eyeballs and connect to you, and she will forget that it's all about that. And she
Yeah.
came out and went, "That's very helpful, thank you."
Yeah, I know. It's about being present for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we let our mind start thinking about other things, or how do I look? How do I sound? What did I say? What if, it's live? Would I say something stupid? But if all of that goes away and you're just present with your guest, it makes all the difference in the
It can
world.
ground you to just
Yeah.
remember that you're talking and to listen.
Yeah.
Listening really helps in life.
So tell me about your new book.
Well, my new book is the memoir, Look at You Now,
Right.
which is the story of my pregnancy and my experience in the facility. And mostly I just want to say, it's a very juicy story, but mostly the book is about the bonds and the relationships I build with these girls and how I see the other side of the world and how...
Now, did you keep in touch with these people? Yes? No?
No. They didn't
Okay.
have my last name. There was no
Right.
keeping in touch. It was just so... It's
But
like...
they impacted your whole life, and I bet
I
you
really think
impacted
they did.
theirs.
Yeah, and when I sold the book, the editor at Random House said to me, when she read some of the stuff, she said, "It's so interesting, when someone has a story that they never talk about and they never write, and it's been, 35 years, it's amazing. It's almost preserved in ember the way you remember it, because
Yes.
it doesn't change, because you
Right.
don't retell it and retell it and retell it."
Right.
And it was astoundingly emotionally difficult, obviously, to write the story.
Right.
And pull back all the emotions. And
Right, and
remember my mom next
revisit
to
it.
me. Yes,
Yeah.
it was difficult but cathartic. So that's the latest book, and then the book before that is What Did I Do Wrong, which is the friendship book.
Right.
And then the TED Talk is just everywhere. So Liz Pryor.
So where are you at now? So single, divorced, or married?
I have been divorced for, I think, almost 9 years, and I've been with the same terrific guy for the last 6.
Does that mean you don't want to get remarried, or
Marriage
you don't know?
is not really on my horizon.
Right. That's what my partner said, who I'm marrying this weekend. She said, never
So you never
again.
know. You never know. But no, I have my 3 kids. My big goal
Yeah.
was to get through here. My youngest is graduating from high school in 4 days, and I told this to somebody recently. I remember going through an enormous amount of stress when I was getting divorced, and I went to some kumbaya, Eastern Western doctor and said, "I'm stressing out so badly," and he's like, "Tell me what you're stressing about," and I said, "Well, I'm really stressing about my 3 young children who are so dependent on me, and I'm not going to end up with their father. I don't lucky parents. What am I going to do? And he told me, and this was 18 years ago.
Yeah.
He said, Liz, all you need to do is go home, and every night before you go to bed, envision your last child graduating from high school in the robe and the hat, and every night just think of it. And it's crazy to me that in 4 days it will have at least I
Right.
survived and didn't die between the time they were little and he's graduating in 4 days.
You must be so proud.
Oh, very proud, very
Yeah.
proud. Yeah, it's one of my top purposes. But so I also just signed a deal with Family Circle magazine, and
Oh,
I'm
that's
doing
exciting.
my own column of personal essays every month that premieres in August.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes, and I'm in development for a shopping deal and a development deal for a television show with Sonar Entertainment.
Oh, wow.
So
So no
details
grass
on
is
that
growing,
later.
huh?
Yeah.
So now you're kind of free to pursue all these different things.
Yes.
Yeah. What's been the highlight of your professional career? Was it the Good Morning America gig, or writing these books, or the TED Talk, or, probably all of them?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I can't really pick a highlight, and I don't. It's been such a cool process, just
Yeah.
keeping my mind and my heart open to all of it. I so believe in the fate of what happens with our lives, and I do think that one thing was meant to be, even starting with a divorce. Listen, had I not decided not to be married, I might not have had the gun to my head to write that first book.
Right.
And the first book led to the second book, led to the TED Talk. So it's I have no complaints in terms of my work life. And at the end of the day, the base of everything that I do is the same thing.
Right.
I like to help inspire people to be
Right.
the best that they can be.
Right. I relate to that.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, I do. I think it's like emotional, soulful cheerleading for people.
So if somebody right now is listening and they're sitting on the sidelines and they're thinking, wow, she was on Good Morning America. She's written 2 books. She's done a
It's all
TED
been,
Talk.
it's been pretty hard.
What would you say to encourage them to write that book or do that TED Talk or do something that they're fearful of doing, but despite all you've been through, look what you've done, so they can too. So
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that we all make up narrative in our own head about ourselves. This is why it's the alone on the inside
and it could be a
concept.
real narrative or a false narrative,
Well,
but it's
most
our
of the time,
perception.
it's our perception, and oftentimes we make up the narrative because we need to cope. My suggestion to get yourself moving is to at least look at the idea that the narrative you're rolling in your head about yourself may not be exactly accurate.
Right.
So you can stop it and roll a new one. If you really want to write a book, or you really want to tell your story, you really want to change your life, I genuinely think, and I told you this in our pre-interview, a lot of my recent success has not been because I'm such a groovy, disciplined, motivated person. I had a gun to my head and had to pay for my children, still have to pay for them to go to college. I had to make my life work. I'm not sure I would have been as motivated for my own personal self as I would if I didn't have kids to feed.
Right. And I think that's a lot of women's stories. They do it for their kids. And
Right, and then you
that
learn
is the
what it feels
motivating
like,
factor.
and then you can do it for you.
Right.
But perhaps, because after the age of 30,
Yeah.
I think we have possibly come into some not great narrative habits in our heads about who we are. Oh, I could never write a book. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No, necessarily. Maybe
We've
want to
all
stop
been
that
guilty of
tape and,
that. Yeah.
right, and rewrite it. And the other thing is, forget all the judgment you think will come on you. I mean, most of us don't pursue things because we think we're going to fail.
Right.
And I had many, many people say to me, what did it feel like if you hadn't won Good Morning America?
Right.
I mean, a dear, dear friend to me said, I cannot believe you're going to fail in front of the entire country when
my
it was down to
gosh.
4. And of course, here's me. Fail? It was 15,000 people. I'm down to 4. I was down to 20. It
That's
was
already a
win.
win. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe, and I,
That was your perception, and their perception was different.
Was different, and
yeah,
that's what
don't
I'm
you though
saying.
always have friends that they always go to the negative?
They
We-
do,
We
and
all
I-
have those friends,
Right, and I think-
and I always go to the positive.
So do I. And they always look at me and go, that's a horrible letter you just got. Terribly rejected. I'm like, but at the end it says it was a really interesting topic. I do,
That would
I
be
do
me.
find that. And I think that our more negative or pessimistic friends, I think they really do that. It's self-protective.
Right.
But if you actually
Because they're-
could
they're-
grasp
they're
the
fear.
notion, their fear. If you could grasp the notion that you're not going to die
Right.
if you fail.
Right.
You know, and read everything from everybody who ever really did anything.
Well, and they say the most successful people have had like 6 or 7 failures. So every time you have a failure, that you're that much closer to the success. So
Exactly right.
That's what
so,
I've heard.
and in a TED Talk, I talk about, do you have an enemy on the inside or do you have an ally?
Oh, I love that.
Because an ally is a
Yeah.
person who, when you screw up, says, that's okay, you've done other great things.
Yeah.
And the enemy goes, typical you suck, you shouldn't have done it.
Right.
We don't need that, but we got those voices on the outside. So coming
Yes.
from the inside needs to be, that's okay.
Yeah, and you got to surround yourself with those cheerleaders who believe in
think
you no
so.
matter what.
Yeah, but at the end
Yeah.
of the day, the only cheerleader that really is going to move you
Is you. Yeah, you're right.
You
I
know?
love it. I love it. What
Yeah.
great advice, of course,
thanks.
coming from you. And it's lizpryor.com if people
Yep.
want to meet, get in touch with you, Liz, and then Pryor.
.com.
Thank you so much for being on the
Thank
show.
you
I look
for
forward to
having
reading
me.
your new book.
Yeah, thanks.
They can get that on Amazon.
Yeah, and everything's at
Look
Liz
at you
Pryor.
now.
Look at you now.
Love it.
And what did I do wrong is the friendship one.
I love them both.
So thanks so much.
Well, thanks for being here
Yeah,
and
thanks for
keep
having
doing all
me.
this incredible work. I can't wait to see even what's next.
Yeah, thank you.
No stopping you, Liz. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week on Wednesday at noon. Be sure to visit at 360karma.com, where we believe you do create your fate, and we're there to help you do that. And hugs and happiness. Make it a great week.